Some people wait until after dinner to pour themselves a whiskey, but dessert actually offers the perfect opportunity to pair sweet flavors together. One of my favorite dessert and whiskey pairings, pie, and you can really take it in a number of different directions.
Today we have 3 pies, pecan, pumpkin, and cherry, that highlight 3 different flavor profiles, sweet, spice, and fruit. We also have 2 whiskeys, straight bourbon and rye. Let's see how they go together.
When pairing whiskey and food, one of the easiest places to start is by matching like flavors. And in that respect, the bourbon and the pecan pie are a natural pair because they share a lot of that nuttiness, that chocolatiness, and it really amplifies those notes of each.
And on the flip side of that, the sweetness of the pie really brings out the spice in rye whiskey, and you use more of your palate when you're not doubling down on those similar flavors.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. Once you have the sweetness of the pie already on your palate, the spiciness of that rye really pops and you really get the full spectrum of flavor.
Right, they become really pronounced and it's nice, but I love the nuttiness that the bourbon really kind of highlights with the pie as well.
So let's see how these pairings work when we switch up the pie and go with something a little bit more spice forward like the pumpkin.
So the same rules apply here, where the pumpkin pie is going to be really nicely complemented by the spice that's in rye whiskeys, and it's going to be a really nice contrast with the sweet honeyed flavors that are in bourbon.
And it's important to remember that not everyone's palates are the same. You know, what works for one person may not work for another person. So we have 2 whiskeys poured here today. People at home, pour yourself a couple of different options and see what works best with your palate, whether you like that contrasting flavor or that complementary flavor. You know what I'm picking up, and I'm not sure if you're getting it as well, but for me it's really the savory aspects, those umami aspects, and the texture of the pie, the creaminess that pairs beautifully with this rye whiskey. This is an example of really how textures can really go together.
Yeah, I definitely got a big hit of that nutmeg right away, but there's also other spices coming out for me. Some nice allspice, there's also some nice cinnamon. It's just really lovely to have those complementary flavors.
And you know, and I can imagine you put a little dollop of whipped cream on there, really takes things to the next level.
Both bourbon and rye have notes of dried fruit, ripe fruit. Let's try that with a fruity pie like cherry. You can't really go wrong with either of these whiskeys when it comes to cherry pie because the bourbon already has notes of cherry and the rye gives a lot of dried fruit as well. Really, fruit pies might be the most versatile when it comes to pairing.
Absolutely. You know, when I'm pairing food and whiskey, I think it's important to really take your time and savor each. Take a bite of the pie, take a sip of the whiskey, see how they interplay with one another. You know, this isn't the state fair, it's not a contest. I think the most important thing to do is have fun, and just because everybody's palates are different doesn't mean this has to be difficult.
Cheers to that.